Okay, so let us start continuing the discussion on registration. We have covered three sections of registration, section 22, 23, 24. These three sections were dealing with only one concept, which persons have to register, which are not supposed to register under GST laws. That's it. 22 and 24 deals with the cases of those persons who have to take registration. 23 deals with those cases who are not supposed to take registration. Now, what is my next section, 25? It talks about the procedure of registration. Once you have finalized after reading section 22, 23 and 24 that who have to take registration, who are not supposed to take registration, then what is the next requirement? How the registration is to be taken for those people who have to take registration. So procedure of registration, when you should apply, which form you should fill, how to fill, etc, etc. This is the procedure. So let us discuss section 25. Now 25 is a lengthy section. It has so many subsections. So let me discuss for the time being only three subsections with you. So let me first share with you the original act and the original language of the act and what is written in the CGST Act as amended. CGST Act as amended till 1st Jan 2021, because we have to cover those acts or all those acts which are amended till 1st Jan 2021. So let me share with you the original act. Original means updated. I hope it is visible. This is section 25 as written in CGST Act 2017. As you can see the heading, it talks about procedure for registration. What is the procedure? Now what is this subsection 1? Now see what it says. Every person who is liable to be registered under section 22 or 24, because 22 and 24 tells who need to register. So once you have decided whether that person is supposed to take registration or not, if you have decided that that person is supposed to take registration, then you have to apply section 25, that such a person shall apply for registration in every such state. Every state. This is the main point. That GST registration is state-wise in India. Registration has to be applied in every state or UT in which he is so liable. So wherever I am liable or from where I am making my taxable supply, in that state or UT, I need to register. Then in how many days I should register? So again, the act says, same section, within 30 days from the date on which he becomes liable to registration. So this section, subsection 1 tells me two things, that I need to apply for registration in every state or UT and I need to apply within 30 days from the date on which I become liable to register. How I should apply, which form I should fill, these are procedural matters. These are not basically taught at any academic level. These requires procedure, which form number to be applied, etc, etc. That is why it is written that in such manner and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. So you should apply as per the relevant rules and regulations. That's it. But there is an exception to this point where I should not apply within 30 days. The general rule is apply within 30 days, but provided means exception. A casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person. A casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person shall apply for registration at least 5 days prior to the commencement of business. For such people who are working for short duration, casual taxable person means who occasionally do the business. Non-resident means that person is not permanently a person who is staying in India. So in these two cases, what government says, these are not since regular businesses, government says before starting business, apply at least 5 days before commencing your business. Otherwise, for all others, you can start the business, but after starting business, apply within 30 days. I hope this point is clear. Provided further, I will simplify the language later on, but I would like to show you the language of the act. Provided further, so we have one more exception. Person having a unit as defined in the special economic zone SEZ. If I have a unit in special economic zone, then I need to take separate registration. I will tell you now. This I will simplify directly, so I am skipping this exception. I simply wanted to show you about special economic zone concept. So I will directly show in simplified version. One explanation is also written now. So many times in case some supplies are happening from waters, from seas and oceans, like extraction of natural gas, extraction of oil. So the question arises, in which state I should register? Suppose from Bay of Bengal, I am in the business of extracting mineral oils, or I am doing some supply basically from sea or oceans, then in which state I should register? So the act says every person who is making a supply from the waters of India has to obtain registration in that state or UT where the nearest point of the appropriate baseline is located. So from that point, from where you are making a supply, check the nearest land, and then check the state in which that nearest land or baseline lies. In that state, you should take registration. This is what my entire section 25(1), which tells me that in which time limit I should apply for registration and in which state I should apply for registration. Now we have subsection 2 of section 25. It says that for one state or UT there should be single registration, no double registrations. In one state, so there is single registration, as the act says 25 subsection 2. A person seeking registration under this act shall be granted a single registration in a state or UT. So within a state or within a UT, I can be having only single registration, one registration. I cannot have more than one registration. However, but there is an exception. There is an exception. However, a person having multiple places of business in a state or UT may be granted a separate registration for each place of business subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. But this also has an exception. Section 25 subsection 2 says that in each state or in each UT, any person can be having one registration number. But suppose in Delhi, I have 50 branches. For example, I am a cloth shop owner and I have 50 cloth showroom within Delhi. The question arises, can I take 50 registration numbers for different offices? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. But some conditions to be fulfilled. As it says, you have to fulfill some conditions as may be prescribed. So let us restrict today's discussion till these three subsections only. Subsection 1 tells you in each state you should take registration, and it tells you the time limit also. Of course, it has some exceptions. Section 25 subsection 2 tells you there should be single registration within a state, but there is an exception when you can be having more than one registration within the same state. And third subsection is what? Voluntarily registration. A person, though not liable to be registered under section 22 or section 24, suppose I am not liable to be registered under 22 or 24. These are only the two sections under which I can register, or if I am covered under this section, then only it is legal obligation on me to register, otherwise not. But still, if I myself wants to register, government says no problem, you take registration. So it is voluntary registration. Now let me share with you my screen and let me start writing and explaining these with the help of examples. So the next topic which is started today is procedure of registration. Before discussing this, you must know that section 22 and section 24, these are telling me the people who have to take registration, and section 23 gives me the name of those people who are not required to take registration. That means this section is not applicable to these people, because when someone is not at all required to take registration, what is the benefit of reading section 25 for these people? So that means 25 is required to be read only for those who are covered under 22 and 24. So let me start the provisions of section 25. What provisions are there? So what is my first point? I hope the screen is clearly visible. What is my first point? It talks about, if you remember the act, it talks about time limit. Section 25, subsection 1 talks about the time limit. What it says: every person who is liable to register under section 22 or under section 24, every person who is liable to register under this section has to apply in each, this is what the word, in each state oblique UT from where he is supplying, from where he is supplying. This is my first point, that every person has to apply in each state and UT from where he is supplying. That is why most of the companies are having offices in multiple states. So most of the companies are having offices in multiple states. Tatas are having offices in multiple states. So they need multiple registration. In every state they need separate registration. If Big Bazaar is having the showroom in multiple states, for example, Big Bazaar is having the showroom in Delhi, Kerala, Chennai, Mizoram, etc. For example, only 4. Then Big Bazaar has to take separate registration for Delhi, separate for Kerala, separate for Chennai, and separate for Mizoram. This is what the point is. That everyone who is liable to register, whether under 24 or 22, has to take registration in each state or UT from where he or she is making the supply. This is my first point. Now you tell me an example. I'm giving you an example. Mr. X. Now it is financial year 2021. It means 1st April 20 till 31st March 21. Now can you tell me, so my question is, I am asking you a question. Can you tell me when Mr. X is liable? Can you tell me When Mr. X is liable to register, this is my question to you. Can anyone tell me when Mr. X is liable to register? This is my simple question. Anyone who can give me the answer. Kindly try. Anyone who can unmute and reply when I will register. I am a supplier in Maharashtra.
Sir, when the limit exceeds 20 lakhs.
Okay, when the limit exceeds 20 lakh, this is your answer. Any other answer? Any other answer? Now this answer is correct as well as non-correct. That when the limit exceeds 20 lakh, why it is correct? Because it fulfills the condition of section 22(1), correct. But it is incorrect because how do you know that Mr. X is that person who is not required to register compulsory under section 24? That means, I hope you are getting my point. If you remember section 24, there are so many people who are required to take compulsory registration. Like for example, non-resident taxable person has to take registration even if the turnover does not exceed 20 lakh. So what should be my answer? Assuming, I should assume this point, assuming Mr. X is not covered under section 24, this I should write. Because if Mr. X is covered under 24 and without those exemptions, then Mr. X is liable to pay the tax on the very day, on the very first day, because that person has to take compulsory registration. There are so many people who have to take compulsory registration. I hope the point is clear. Assuming Mr. X is not covered under section 24 and its exceptions, or ignore exceptions, assuming Mr. X is not covered under section 24. Simple point. 24 deals with what? Compulsory registration. Assuming Mr. X is not covered under section 24 compulsory registration, or if covered under 24, let me assume if covered under 24, then then covered under the exemptions of aggregate turnover limit. Under the exemptions of aggregate turnover limit. This is what you should remember. Either this person should not be covered under 24 altogether, or if covered under 24, then also covered under the exemptions of aggregate turnover limit, where till 20 lakh in Maharashtra, I should not take registration. If this is your assumption, then you can say that then Mr. X is liable to register. Then what that person has told is correct, is liable for registration when his aggregate turnover exceeds rupees 20 lakh. I hope this point is clear. I hope this point is clear. Now, let me assume another point now, or not assume, this example is clear. This is what I wanted to discuss, that when I should apply, the moment my turnover exceeds the limit. Now, next question arises, the conceptual question. This was the example. Now, concept goes on, when to apply. This is next point. Now, when to apply under section 25(1). Do you remember when to apply? The time is within 30 days. Within 30 days from the date when liable. Within 30 days from the date when liable. So let me continue the same example. Mr. X. Mr. X, aggregate turnover exceeds rupees 20 lakh on 1st September 2020. Now again my question is, can you tell me the last day? This is what my question. What is the last day? What is the last day when Mr. X must apply for registration? Can anyone tell me the answer? Think and tell. It says within 30 days from the date when the person is liable. So what is the answer? What is the last day of applying for registration as per the provisions? What is the answer? I need the date. Can you tell me the answer? Think and tell me the answer. Any answer? If on 1st September 20 I achieved the turnover of 20 lakh rupees, then what is the last date? Anyone who can try to answer? Raghav, can you tell me the last day, Raghav? Is if my voice is coming?
Sir, I'm not really sure.
Okay, no issue. Any other Yugam, can you try? What is the last day? If on 1st September 20 I become liable for registration, then what is the last day by which I should apply?
So is it 29th September?
Okay, so 29 September is one option. Any other answer?
So
Shreya,
30 September.
Sushant, you are saying 30th September.
30th September.
30 September.
What, Sushant?
So 30 September.
Yeah. 30. No, so one answer is 29th, another answer is 30th. Any other answer? Any other answer? Please raise your hand if you are willing for 30th. Those who are saying that 30th is the answer, please raise your hand. If you are also willing or if you are also in favor of 30th September. Okay, 30th is not the answer. Answer is 1st October. 29th, of course, is totally wrong. 29th cannot be the answer. Now, answer is 1st October. Let me tell you why now. The answer is 1st October. Now, let me tell you why. 30th is not the answer. 1st October. Answer is 1st October 20. 30th is the wrong answer. Why? Now, the answer lies. Answer lies not under GST laws. Answer lies under a separate act. The answer lies under the General Clauses Act. (1897). This is the act of British India. Most of the acts are those which are pre-independence. Now, General Clauses Act. This is the act. It is applicable to all other acts. The points or provisions of this are applicable to all other acts. I should add the word almost all other acts. Almost. Keeping in mind your semester 6 level, I should use the word almost all other acts. Section 9 of this act says, that wherever in any act the word from is written from the date, exclude that date. Exclude that date. This is what act says. So in my example, when it was 1st September 2020, I should exclude 1st and I should start from 2nd September 20. And starting from 2nd September 20, if you start counting, then till 1st October 30, sorry, 1st October 2020, this 1st October will be the 30th day. This is my 30th day. See, I'm not reading only English language. Had it been only English language, had it been English language, without act, had I not been reading the act, my answer would have been what? If you see the English, then from means from. No need to exclude that date. From means what? Start from 1st September and end on 30th September. My answer would have been 30th September. Had it been English language only, this would have been my 30th day. But I'm not reading only English. I'm reading the English and a legal language. And it is with act. You can say it is with act, where I have to exclude 1st September and I should start always in any act from the next day till 30th. So the answer is 1st October. I hope it is clear. Any problem you can ask me, otherwise I'm assuming that the concept is clear. Next point. So I have discussed with you what? That in each state I should apply. I have discussed with you the exact calculation of 30 days, because this can come in numerical also. This question can come in numerical also, where you have to mention the exact date. So this point also we have covered. And now some notes. Notes of this first point itself. Some notes of this first point. First, as far as casual taxable persons, or non-resident taxable persons are covered. So CTPs and NRTPs. In these cases, you don't have 30 days limit. In these cases, you should apply. In fact, before starting the business, applying, or you should apply 5 days before commencement of business. Five days before commencement. This is one point. Then another point is, if you are supplying from territorial waters of India, not from any land, territorial waters of India, then in which state you should register? Register in that state, state oblique UT, in which or where, you can say, where the nearest baseline falls. For example, now, for example, I am taking this as an example of Odisha, and this is Bay of Bengal. Okay, Bangladesh. Now, suppose from here the business is, from here I am making this supply. So I should check where the nearest, or in which state the nearest land falls. For example, from this point of time, from this point, not point of time, from this point, the nearest baseline falls in Odisha, then Odisha becomes the state where I should register. That is the simple point. In case this supply is happening from the territorial waters of India, then you don't have any land. So which state will claim? So that says, because in the seas the states have no right, the nation has a right. So India has a right uh, up to 12 nautical miles, up to 200 nautical miles, up to 24. So depending upon different cases, what type of area, whether it is economic exclusive zone, etc., etc. Beyond 200 kilometer, no nation has any right. The water belongs to each and every country. Till 200 kilometers, every nation has separate specific rights. It's based on the conventions of the United Nations. So the nations have no control. The United Nations have framed some guidelines in this regard. Continental shelf, etc., etc. Those I will discuss in the chapter of custom when we will start customs. Now, this is the point, that when the supply is being made from territorial waters of India, then it depends upon the nearest land or baseline. For example, in my case, if the nearest baseline falls in Odisha, then Odisha is the state where I should apply for registration. Third point. If you remember, special economic zone concept was written. Now, what is special economic zone? The simple concept is, in special economic zone, what happens? You have some extra benefits. Why these zones are created? So as to make sure that the businesses flourish, jobs are provided, foreign exchange comes. Because in these special economic zones, so many extra benefits are provided, tax exemptions are given, electricity rates can be cheaper, good road is provided, rail connectivity is good, and procedural or legal requirements are very less, so that the businesses can work and achieve quality production. So this is the purpose of special economic zone, where economy will be given some special consideration so that we achieve some high targets. Now, for example, as a businessman, I have two factories. So I'm talking about a unit which is located in special economic zone. The unit means a factory, for example, located in special economic zone, or I don't have a unit. I was myself the developer of special economic zone. This is also possible. Otherwise, who is the developer? Big corporate houses are mainly the developer, who will not establish the business, or who will not establish their unit. Who can establish the unit? But for example, the developer means they will establish a special economic zone. They will acquire the lands, etc., and they will give to the government special economic zone. So these are developers. Maybe I am not the developer, but I have established my factory in special economic zone. So I will be known as a person whose unit is located in special economic zone. So this point is applicable on the developer of the zone as well as for the businessman who is having factory in the zone. Now suppose in UP also we have special economic zones. In Haryana, for example, I have a factory which is not in special economic zone. Okay, as Mr. X, I have factory in Haryana which is not in special economic zone, and as Mr. X, I have another factory in UP which is in special economic zone. Act says separate registration is required. There is no doubt about it, because in each state or in UT, so in this case special economic zone has no relevance because the states are different. So the point which I have discussed is not at all relevant in my example for the time being. So I need separate registration. Why? Because I have one factory in Haryana, one in UP. This is how I will read. So for this factory I will apply for Haryana registration in Haryana, and for this factory I will apply in UP. But now let me assume in UP I have special economic zone and I have a factory. Within UP, I have another factory in non-special economic zone. So I have one factory here and one factory here. Now I will apply this point. Now the act says, though it is same state, and logically what is mentioned that for same state you can be having single registration. But if within the same state you have one unit in special economic zone, then you need separate registration. In this case also, I need separate registration, one for the unit which is in special economic zone and another for the unit which is outside special economic zone. Now this example is based on this concept. I hope the point is clear. If yes, then next subsection now. This is my second subsection, 25 subsection 2. Single registration. Section 25(2), single registration. Now it says in each state or UT, this subsection says in each state or UT, you can be having only one registration. Only one registration. When states or UTs are different, of course, you have to take separate registration as per section 25 subsection 1. But within the same state or UT, there is only one registration required as per the law. Example. Mr. X is cloth shop owner. He is having cloth shops owner in Delhi, and he has 15 showrooms in Delhi, all within Delhi. He has 15 showrooms within Delhi. My question to you is, for example, he has 15 showrooms within Delhi. Showroom 1, showroom 2, showroom 3, showroom 4, showroom 5, etc. etc. And the region is Delhi. Now my question is it necessary that this person has to take separate registration for each of the offices? This is my question. Answer yes or no. Is it necessary that this person has to take separate registration? Answer is no. As per section 25(2), single registration is required. Single registration is required for multiple places of business within same state. For multiple places of business within the same state oblique UT. Single registration. Single registration. However, now this is the concept. However, so this is the change. However, if Mr. X wants to have separate registration, now mandatorily it is not required. Legally it is not required. As a person who is having multiple business within same state or duty, it's my choice. I can be having one registration for all the offices, or if I want to have separate registration for these showrooms, I am using the word for multiple places of business within same state. Then government says no problem, you can have it. Then I can have separate registration. I can have separate registration within the same state for these businesses. It is my choice. This is what the point is. This is the main point. Legally, it is not required. If you are having multiple, like for example, so many big bazaar, Reliance, Jio, Idea, Vodafone, these have Airtel, these have multiple showrooms within same state. It is their choice. If they want to have single registration for all the offices, it is allowed. If they want to have separate registration for all the offices, even within the same state, it is also allowed, but subject to some conditions to be fulfilled. But subject to some conditions to be fulfilled. Some conditions to be fulfilled. I hope the point is clear. So what are those conditions? So I'm discussing now the concept of separate registration. For multiple places of business within the same state oblique UT. And these conditions are mentioned in Rule 11 of the CGST rules. This is what the point is. So if you want separate registration for each office within the same state, what conditions you should fulfill? First point, you must be having multiple places. This is of course sure. You must be having multiple places. This is one thing, that first you must be having multiple places of business. Now if you are having multiple places of business, then the next point is that you should act just like a normal businessman. Normal businessman means whenever any supply happens between or within, whenever any supply happens within the multiple places of same person, whenever the supply happens between these multiple places of business, it should be normal. It should be just like supplier and recipient. It should be just like supplier and recipient. That means, what is the effect of this? The effect of this will be that whatever is the applicable GST rate, that has to be paid by the supplier. Though same person, branches are different, so technically all these branches belong to me. But when I want separate registration, each branch is treated as separate. So if one branch supplies something to another branch, then the supplier branch has to collect normal GST. Now then you cannot say that these are my branches, why should I pay GST? No, government says if you need separate registration, pay GST. That means applicable GST rate is applicable GST rate, that has to be done. Document, whether bill of supply, that I will tell you later on in different chapter, bill of supply or tax invoice, whatever the documents are required, those have to be issued. Just because now when you have taken separate registration, or if you want to take separate registration, don't say that why there is a GST, because these are my branches. Government says no, supplier branch has to collect GST from the recipient branch, so the chain will go on. So then you have to act just like separate entity. This is the another point. Third, if one branch rather than multiple places of business, now for simplicity let me use the word branch. Okay, for simplicity let me use the word branch. For simplicity I am using the word branch. If one branch wants to pay tax under composition levy, wants to pay tax under composition levy scheme, do you remember composition levy scheme? I think yes, where we have very lax rates. Then all other branches have to pay under composition levy. Have to pay. It's compulsory. Have to pay under composition levy scheme. If one branch wants to pay under composition levy, and if others are not willing to pay under composition levy, then they have to. Otherwise, it's not possible. So, what is the effect of this point? What will be the effect of this point? Branch 1 wants to pay under composition levy, but other branches, all other branches do not want to pay under composition levy. Then what happens? Even branch 1 composition levy is not allowed. If any one branch wants to pay under composition levy, all have to agree, otherwise it is not allowed. This is the implication. Similarly, for example, all branches are paying under composition levy, but one branch, for example B2, wants to withdraw from composition. Then government says if B2 withdraws, then all by default have to withdraw, or by default there will be withdrawal. If B2 withdraws from composition, by default all branches composition is withdrawn, by default withdrawn. It simply says that stay together or you fall apart. As far as scheme of taxation is concerned, whether it is composition or normal, if one branch wants to pay under composition, it cannot do so if all others doesn't agree for composition. If all others are going already in composition, and if one withdraws, by default the entire system of composition levy for all the branches collapse by default. I hope the point is clear. And third, each branch has to apply separately. Each branch has to separately fill the registration form. These are the conditions to be fulfilled if you want separate registration for all your branches within the same state. Each branch has to separately fill the registration form. You cannot say that since we all are branches, only one form is separate. No, fill separate form. That's it. This is what by section 25(2) and last subsection. Voluntary registration. Now, when the registration is compulsory or liable, section 22 and 24. So, if my aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakh or 10 lakh, as the case may be depending upon the state, can I apply for registration? Answer is yes, no problem. Still I can apply. Government says no problem. Why there is a problem? Still you can apply as per section 25(3). Even if your turnover does not exceed the limit, you can apply. But then you make sure that if you apply, then these are implications. If you apply, then what are the implications? First, GST would be payable to government. even if aggregate turnover is less than 20 lakh or 10 lakh. This is the main point. If you apply for registration, even though your aggregate turnover does not exceed the limit, then even if your aggregate turnover is less than 20 lakh or 10 lakh, you have to pay tax to the government of India as per the applicable rates. That's it. This is what voluntary registration. And normally, why someone will apply voluntary? This is the question which can arise in your mind. Why someone will apply for voluntary registration? Why someone will take the registration when GST has to be paid? Because when you register, then your consumer can be retained, because there may be so many recipients who will not purchase products or who will not avail your services if you do not issue the bills or tax invoices, because maybe they have to supply to some third party. Now, for example, this person wants voluntary registration under 25(3). I am the consumer or I am the further recipient. I will avail some goods, purchase some goods from here, and I have to supply to other party. Now this person say that don't give me the tax invoice, and I will say that I don't have any tax invoice. Then this person says, okay, then I will not purchase from you, because if you don't give me the tax invoice, my consumer will not purchase for me. So I will lose the consumers if I don't have registration. This is the implication. So just because this person does not want to lose the consumer, it's possible that the person will take the registration, because so many times chain is required. So many times consumer says, like for example, I most of the time says, or in fact you can say that I will always ask for the bill, that give me the bill, otherwise I will not purchase the goods for you, because I am willing to pay the tax. And why I shouldn't pay the tax? I should pay the tax keeping in mind the development and the expenditures which are incurred by the government on so many sectors in India. So there may be so many businesses also who never purchase the goods or who never avail the services without paying the tax. So many times, just to make sure that business or the consumers are not lost, so many businesses themselves apply for registration voluntarily, even if the aggregate turnover does not exceed the limit. So that's all from my side. So thanks for today, and let us meet in the next class, where we will start discussing other subsections of 25. I hope the points which we have covered are clear to you. In case you have any problem, you are most welcome to ask, or by making a phone call also you can ask me. Goodbye.